Thank you very much for staying with us. Now, let's deal with this second segment, which deals with happenings in Parliament this week. And one of the things that we've learned is that the special committee is to be set up to look into the Electoral Commission, how it handled the 2020 elections, particularly with reference to allegations of additional ballots. Now, former President Mahama had made this claim previously, and the Electoral Commission's leadership had called on the police to investigate that matter. We haven't heard anything out of that, but it would be interesting to find out what this committee will be seeking to probe, particularly because this was an issue that would have been dealt with at the election petition, and we all know the outcome of that. So what's Parliament looking for? We'll find out. Also, this week, the chairman of Parliament's Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee had come under some heat this week. It's because of perceived delays over the passing of the Promotion of Proper Human, Sexual Rights and Ghanaian Family Values Bill. It's known colloquially as the Anti-LGBTQ Bill. And the Honourable Sam George and the Honourable Dapia Makwo, who are one of the backers of that private member's bill, had raised concern about it. So joining us in the studio today is the chairman of that committee, the Honourable Anyimadu. You're welcome, Honourable Anyimadu. Thank you for making some time for us. We're still staying with the Honourable Kofi Adams. So I'll start off first with the issue of the bill. I know that this was raised on the floor of the House, and you tried to give some explanation about processes. Tell Ghanaians why this hasn't been done much faster.
Thank you very much. Every bill goes through stages. When a bill is introduced, for lack of time, I may not be able to take
you
you
can
through
make
the
your
process.
excerpts, no problem.
There is a first reading. After the first reading, it is referred to a committee. In this case, Parliamentary, Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee, of which I chair. Then the committee will deliberate on this. So we are at the first stage. After that, we submit a report to the plenary, to the Speaker. Then there is the second reading of the bill, where the principles about the bill are considered. After which, if it passes through the second stage, there is a consideration stage where we have to go through the bill one after the other. Our standing rules talk about it in order 129, I suppose. Then when we have finished with that, then we go to the third reading. When the bill was referred to us, we met as a committee. The Committee of Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs consists of 18 members. 9 MPP members, 9 NDC members. We actually use the ratio of the representations of the parties in Parliament. And now you know that it is 137 with one independent candidate. So it is equal. On the NDC side, the person that is the ranking member, that is Honourable Ehiafo. Then I chair the committee on the side of the MPP. As a chairman of the committee, I do not dictate. What I have to do is to do consultation. Even calling a meeting, I have to confer with my ranking member. And when we agree, we actually discuss it with the other members of the committee. And if it is affirmed, we hold the committee. When it was referred to us, we held a meeting, and the timetable and the plan was that the nature of this bill, particularly, is a very sensational bill, and therefore we have to seek some knowledge from the public. So we advertised in accordance with most of the bills that we go through, and the public sent a lot of memoranda to us. We received about 186 memoranda. So the plan was that we would have to group them and meet them. We held 8 different meetings and for public hearings. Now, when we are doing public hearing, the cameras, we showed it to the whole of the world. The cameras will have to come and we have to pay for that. And we spent not less than 130,000 per sitting of the, which, and
that's the cost of the
cost of the, yes,
and the organization.
Yes, that's on the average. Sometimes when we meet, we spend about 140,000 or 145,000. And all this would have to go into the public accounts. You see, the chairman of the parliamentary service is the speaker. So if we want any money, I have to write to the speaker, and then the speaker will give the go-ahead. I must say that the speaker had never declined anything, but we have a budget for every committee, and now we have almost run out of budget. About 2 days ago, I wrote to the speaker asking for additional budgetary support because we have used almost the money we have on public hearings. Then after the public hearing, what we had planned was that the committee will retire in camera. There are some groupings that wouldn't want to appear on the cameras, so we would have to hear them privately. The first of the series of meetings we held that we have started was done on the 2nd of June. And
2021.
2021. That is last week, Thursday. And I had a sponsor of the bill, in the person of Honorable Bejra, who is not a member of the committee, but sat in that meeting.
Oh, so this meeting happened just over last
Just
week?
2nd of
so
June.
It's 2022.
2nd of June.
Sorry.
Then 2 days after, he comes to Parliament. He was the person that raised the whole of this issue. He comes to Parliament to say that he doesn't know what the committee is doing about this bill. And I found this as something that is hypocritical. Because on the 2nd of June, you sat in our meeting. And then you are blowing hot and cold. So the next day, I drew the attention of leadership. And Honorable Bejra at the moment is at ECOWAS Parliament. So I drew the attention of leadership that if Honorable Bejra were to be around, I would have asked him to withdraw what he had told the House and apologize, because he is aware of what we are doing. At all the meetings that we have held, including the public hearings, the sponsors of the bill are with us in order that the public would understand what we are doing. They pose questions and they actually expatiate on the points they want to. As of now, we have not started the clause-by-clause consideration by the committee. Now, that is about what we have to do. So for a member of the sponsoring team to turn around to say that he doesn't know what we are doing, that is absurd.
So what about this point made, I heard the Honorable Sam George and the Honorable Dapia Makbo make, that there are guidances for delays, and that according to the rules of the House, within 3 months, you have to deal with these issues. If you don't, you have to inform the Speaker and ask for an extension.
If any person says it, I'll forgive the person, but not somebody who claims to be a lawyer. Honorable Dapia Makbo must listen and listen well. Article 106(14) says, and if I have the permission, I'll read. A bill introduced in Parliament by or on behalf of the President shall not be delayed for more than 3 months in any committee of Parliament. This is repeated in our standing orders. Now, it says a bill introduced on behalf of the President. They are losing sight of which makes it public bill. The bill that we are considering is a private member's bill. So to say that we have to work as if it is a public bill, I can't understand this.
But knowing fully well the significant public interest in this bill, wouldn't it then be more prudent to ensure that the issue is fast-tracked? Because this is a matter that has not just gained attention in Ghana, but globally as well, sir?
We have other bills we are dealing with. On the 29th of this month, we have scheduled another meeting, and it is not on this anti-LGBTQ bill. So the plan was that, you see, because we can't just rush through this bill. That one, and that's why we threw it to the public, for the public to give us an input. If it had been, there are rules. We could actually go, some bills come, and it's taken through the stages, the 3 or 4 stages, the same day to come out, especially financial bills and tax bills and whatnot. And then there are other bills that could also go under certificate of emergency. But this is a private member's bill. The public should not lose sight of the fact that quite recently, I think in the last meeting or last 2 meetings, Article 108 was an issue. And the Speaker ruled that, for lack of time, I may not go there. The Speaker ruled that that is about the fact that private members' bill should, if you want to do a private members' bill, other interpretation is that it must not actually have any effect on the consolidated fund. But we have gone past that stage because there were other arguments. My ranking member said that even if we have to print a paper from Parliament, that is on the consolidated fund. So we have gone past that. Probably this is the reason why private members' bill were not popular in the previous Parliament. Even in the 7th Parliament, it was started by Honorable Michael Kwame, but it was not as prevalent as we have it now, which is good for the country. Because there are other bills on capital punishment, death penalty. These are all bills that are before there. There are other things on citizenship, and then also on the OSP that the committee is considering all these. We have held other meetings on this. After the 2nd of June, we've held a meeting on other committees. So for somebody to say that there is, by law, by the Constitution, and by our standing orders, we have to actually work within 3 months. That is neither here nor there. I can forgive Honorable Muntaka when he interprets this to mean that we should finish this law within 3 months. But not somebody who claims to be a lawyer. You must actually use your words very well because you are guided by the Constitution. So, Jifa, we have actually worked on this bill. Sometimes we sit for about 186 memoranda. We sit in the morning, we close at night. And we have done 8 sittings. All our money had gone into that. And now we are asking for additional budgetary support to actually proceed with this. So I heard them say that during the recess of 7 weeks, I didn't call a meeting. Who is sponsoring this bill? And if members are in their constituency and I call them to come for a meeting, who is going to pay for their fuel? I mean, they know all these things because Honorable Dafia Mopo is a member of the committee and also a sponsor. So I expect better from him. Okay,
so sorry if I'm holding you just a little. I'll come to Honorable Adams. The final bit on this for the moment is that maybe the concern about the timing has emerged partly because of the what was the erection of billboards purportedly promoting LGBTQ activities, which has now been pulled down. So I think the concern also is that if we don't get ahead of this, we'll be seeing all sorts of clandestine promotions of this act that people, majority of Ghanaians abhor.
I am a Ghanaian. I am a Christian. My background is that I'm a Presbyterian. This billboard that day, I saw it on the news. Even if I had gone past the billboard, I don't know the meaning of the billboard. But I sound a caution. The LGBT community must be very careful because this bill came about when they attempted to open an office within Accra, and then there was a public outcry. So everybody is interested in this particular bill. Already we have a law Our criminal code shans upon this. The criminal code says that unnatural carnal knowledge is an offense. So already part of what is before us and what we are considering, the law shans upon it. It is criminal for any person to engage in any unnatural carnal knowledge. But the sponsors of the bill in the memorandum also states that there are other things that are involved in these LGBTQ activities. I am not an LGBT practitioner, and therefore we need to actually listen to the public. There are some, and if I don't remember anything at all, I remember the Catholic bishops attending to our meeting with the greater respect. There was a question posed about what is their advice for us. They said that God loves every person, including the LGBTQ practitioner, but God hates the act of that. So they leave it to us as parliamentarians to actually make a decision. The Presbyterian Church came, Honorable Fuamonin and his group came. There are others also that came to talk about HIV prevalence, how it had risen, others contradicting and whatnot. So members of the committee, we have all this knowledge. And when we sit down clause by clause, on the 2nd of June, the meeting that we held was proposed and organized by the Parliamentarians for Global Action, of which some of the members of Parliament in Ghana, including me, are members. And they didn't want it to appear on the cameras. There are other groupings, so I have to just liaise with the Secretariat. What other groupings do we have? After that, we sit down and consider the clause by clause. What I can promise Ghana and the world is that the clause, as had been presented to us, the bill as presented to us would not come out the same way. It like you send a bread to be baked. When it's going in, it's white. When it comes out, it's black, brown. So obviously there will be changes and additions, but we will get there. But you cannot say that you are rushing us through because the rules say so. I know how Ghanaians are interested in this bill, and I am interested as well. I am very much interested in this bill. Everybody is interested in this bill. But for somebody to say that, look, it is being delayed unnecessarily, I cannot get it.
Okay.
That is not true. If that person is not being mischievous, I do not understand, because being a member of Parliament, being a member of the committee, to go on air and even going to the extent of saying that they think that I have been compromised, it's too bad.
I'll come back to I didn't want to raise that yet. I was going to raise it. Yeah. But let me come to Honorable Adam. So certainly there's a huge public interest in the bill. There's a lot of work that Honorable Anyimadu has indicated, but he points to an important thing, the imposition on the consolidated fund. And it's not even in reference to how much is being spent. Now they've even run out of budget to run this. What's your sense about, the House pulling together to do this in the right way, as he has outlined?
Well, it's very clear that the House is prepared, no matter the cost, to see this bill through.
You are prepared no matter the cost, yet other bills have sat in the House for decades.
Well, we are discussing this particular one here now. When it comes to those other ones, we will discuss and see why possibly it has taken some time, because some bills ultimately will have economic effect, will have even the structuring. But if you look at this bill and you look at what is being proposed, I'm sure at the end of the day, we may not even need to create any other structure. Like in the case of the right to information bill that spent so much time, we needed to create other structures that will be caused to see to its implementation and who to apply to. This one is just about creating a law that will enhance the already existing institutions to be able to perform better in those areas. That's all. It will not demand creating something new, for which reason we will be suffering all this delay. There seems to be, this is the first time a bill has been introduced, that there's some high-level consensus outside there, whether it is religious, the various persuasions, Islamic, Christian, and traditional, have all spoken in favor of the bill. I'm yet to hear anyone in these religious sects that we have, Christian, traditional, Islamic, and any other, saying that they are opposed to this bill. Indeed, health experts, majority have spoken in favor of this bill.
But why would your colleagues make the committee look like it's unwilling to address this?
I'll come to that. I'll come to the committee's unwillingness. You see, they are raising that because of the initial posture of even the committee itself as to how it wants to approach its work. After they receive the various memoranda from the public, I wanted to attend one of their sittings, but I couldn't. I'm not a friend to their committee, but what is happening now, since the chairman is here, I'll tell him I want to be a friend to their committee, and then I'll attend as a friend.
To the committee.
So, there was that debate as to, based on the memoranda that they have received, some of it could just be class, like the way the Supreme Court heard the election petition cases, putting some of the issues together. So you didn't have to meet them individually.
No, that's what we did. We grouped them.
That would have reduced that they expected further grouping beyond what is being done. Then they will invite the group leaders to come into the meeting room. Then you just consider clause by clause. So you go to the first clause, where the disagreement is. Those who are proposing it will speak. Those who are opposed to it will speak. Then you know that you have concluded. What they are trying to do is that let's hear them based on their memos that they have brought. Then after that, we now start at the committee level to consider clause by clause. And so this is seen by even some members of the committee who are also sponsors and who are not members of the committee and are sponsors, or other MPs feel that this process will let the bill take too much time, and that it is possible to do it this way. Bring all of them. Why will anyone be opposing a bill or supporting a bill like this and say that, oh, I don't want the public to know that I am
well, everyone is well within their rights. We can't take that away from them.
So that person should not subject the workings of the committee to. You can present a memo, and the committee have a way of communicating with you. If you don't want to appear in person, the committee.
No, they want to appear in camera, and that is an option.
And I'm saying that if you don't want to appear in public, and the committee's hearing is in public, and the committee say we will communicate with you, they will have a way of hearing them.
But there's no rule that says that we should not give people who don't want to be in public opportunity.
That should not delay the workings of the committee.
But the question is, the committee also has to do right by all manner of persons.
And that introduction from some members of the committee, like I said, I'm not a member of the committee. I'm not a member of that committee. I'm not a sponsor of the bill. But I have also heard that this introduction of some persons wanting to be heard in private and not in public is a new thing to them. And that these persons were not part of the earlier memos that came to the committee.
That's speculation. That's not true.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm not there. But this is what we are being told. When he got a chance to speak on the floor of the House, where we were all present in the chamber and plenary, he did not respond to some of these issues. So I still will consider what has been raised out there, since it's not been spoken to for me.
He will address that here. But I'm just saying to you that as a committee, and he's a lawyer,
I'm saying
they have to do right by all manner of persons.
The committee,
thank you, lawyer.
Beside the committee's working, he had a chance to speak on the floor of the House when he thought that issues were being raised. And I'm saying he did not speak to this particular matter that I have raised. Now he's saying it's not true. I don't know how I can independently verify, because I'm not a member of the committee. But I believe that he will be speaking.
Okay,
the
so
truth.
so hold on. So there's a
but-
perception
but-
that the committee is delaying this. Honorable Anyimadu
It
will
is
answer.
not. It is not perception.
Oh.
It is even
He
my.
has explained
I
just
am-
now
no,
that
I feel,
the process.
For example, he talked about budget.
That's
He
one
himself,
issue.
he himself also added that Mr. Speaker has not declined any budgetary support for this.
But
He
you were
says-
also
he
in the
said,
House when
Gifa,
Mr.
will you-
Speaker. Oh no,
Gifa,
but you
will
were
you
also.
allow me to finish so that you can ask your question? Because the interjections is
I'm
becoming
sorry.
just too many. and too
I'm
much.
sorry.
I'm not even able to finish a point.
But I'm just saying that
I am
Mr.
saying
Speaker
that
talked
yes,
about
Mr.
budget
Speaker,
challenges.
the fact that Mr. Speaker talked about budget challenge to Parliament does not mean that a particular committee would not be able to work. Yes, there is lack of releases to Parliament, and the recent one we had is our arrears for 2021. That is true. But like he himself said, even though we've not received anything for this year, the committees have been working. He says they have almost exhausted their budgetary allocation. They haven't exhausted
On this bill.
on the bill, yes, on this bill. And I'm saying that if you look at the importance we all attach to it, including even Mr. Speaker himself, I believe that any request that goes to make them work to get this bill through will not be rejected. It will not be rejected by Mr. Speaker, and therefore they can carry on and work. So far, if Mr. Chairman, the chairman of the committee, writes requesting for additional support or variation for them to spend other funds for other bills on this, and then Mr. Speaker say no, then they have a reason. But we haven't reached there. Again, this is also a bill, like I've said earlier, that when I read the bill, its passage is really not going to put any burden, financial burden, on the state.
Passage or implementation, sir?
I mean, when it is passed and it gets to the point of implementation, it's not going to put any financial burden.
I disagree.
Well, they may, but
I
it may
disagree
not be.
because some may go to prison. And if they go to prison, who feeds them?
If you go
Some
to
may need
prison,
say they
if
want
you go
health
to, if you go to,
support.
if you
What
go
about
to,
that?
if you go to prison, it is because you have committed
Exactly.
an act that would
And
have
the
been
state is
considered
responsible.
as criminal. But if you don't, I'm talking about if you don't, in terms of creating institutions to be monitoring, like I said with the RTI,
Right.
the RTI, you have to establish institutions to make it work. Even in this case, if you go and commit the act and you are arrested, the normal prosecutorial processes is what you will go through. You don't need to go and create any special institution, any special committee to be watching and to be looking for that. If you don't do anything, you will not go to prison, and the state will not spend anything on you. So I think that we are appealing to the committee chair to find ways, together with his ranking and others, to at least hasten and let this meeting hear something from them.
Okay.
We want this meeting before we go. We want this meeting to hear something from the
Pressure.
committee.
So
We want to hear something from the
So,
committee.
Honorable Anyimadu, there were accusations that you'd been compromised and that people wanting to see you in private means that there's something fishy. Or should I borrow your emblem and say there's an elephant hiding somewhere?
Right.
Have you been compromised?
Never.
Is this a potential for you to be compromised?
I would have asked Honorable Adams whether me as a person or as a chairman. You know where I'm coming from. I was at the office. Some ladies and gentlemen called to speak to me. I didn't know where they were coming from. They came to the office. I admitted them in. And there were many. In my office,
Money or many?
Money.
Okay, because I heard money.
Our office, that's what your people are thinking. So all the chairs were filled in my office. So they numbered about 12 or so. Then I asked them, and then one of them introduced himself as the LGBT community. He said, okay, hold on. My ranking member was then the Deputy Minister of Finance, the MP for Ejiso. So I called the senior member of the committee who was immediately available, Honorable Anyimadu-Antwi, to come and sit with me.
Your ranking?
Yes. No, he is not my.
No, you said your ranking was a former.
Is,
No,
is
my
the
vice.
Because you
My
said
vice chair.
Your vice chair.
Is the
Deputy Finance Minister,
Deputy Finance
Honorable
Minister,
John Kuma.
John Kuma. So he was not available, and so I called the senior member of the committee, and then we deliberated. Then they said that they, amongst other things, that's what they have presented a petition to the committee as well. But the crux of that was that they didn't want to be seen in public.
Because they are afraid of.
They said people are lynching others because they suspect them to be part of the LGBT community. So they lynch them, they put them naked, water. Nobody should forget, lose sight of the fact that this is a Parliamentary Select Committee on Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee. Per Article 12, 14, blah, blah, on the fundamental human rights. We have taken, we are Christians, we are Muslims,
No,
we
but
are
you have not
whatever.
answered whether
I'm coming to that.
their previous petition indicated they wanted a public or a private
One day,
hearing.
when they bring their petition, nobody states whether he wants to be to speak to the public on camera or in private. Nobody indicates that. But we invited them to actually give public hearing. And they said that we have invited them, but they don't want to appear in public because people will go after them. If I cite Article 12, for instance, which is talking about the fundamental human rights, is that the fundamental human rights and freedoms enshrined in this chapter shall be respected and upheld by the executive, legislature, and judiciary. 2, I didn't finish with that, but it said every person in Ghana, whatever his race, place of origin, political opinion, color, religion, creed, or gender, shall be entitled to the fundamental human rights and freedoms of individual contained in this chapter, but subject to the respect for the rights and freedom of others and for the public interest.
Exactly.
So we have taken the trouble to have sworn with this constitution to protect the constitution and all manner of people. I agree that larger community, including priests, I belong to a sect, Presbyterian Church, my other pastors and whatnot have spoken to me and whatnot, but I have sworn with the constitution. Even if the people involved in this is 0.0001% of the population, we have a responsibility to listen to them. And it is their right to actually to be heard. At the end of the day, they would not dictate to us. Amongst that, so when somebody says, I've been meeting them in private, it is never true. This is the only meeting, it was one meeting where they indicated. If we call them and they said that they are not ready to come and speak to that, we start the clause by clause.
But Chairman, is that the procedure? If people want to, is that the way they have to come and see you in your
on the
office
2nd of June?
Or they write officially and there's a way
they've written already. They've written already
and
to the committee.
Are they supposed to come and meet you in your office privately?
How do I determine who comes and who doesn't come to my office? Somebody comes to my office and he says, I want to speak to you. What's the issue about? He says, it's on this. I said, I can't listen to you alone. Let me call a senior member of the committee to sit with me. After that, I report to my ranking member, this happens. And then accusations are going on. What do you expect me to do?
So on hindsight,
but Honorable Adams, just like you are an MP,
what?
Anybody who comes to job 600 wants to speak to any member of parliament, unless the person declines to meet them, there is nothing stopping anyone.
If somebody comes to me,
why do you suspect something with the visit?
On a matter that, no, I'm not suspecting, I'm trying to help you. If somebody comes to me on a matter that has been referred to my committee, that comes to my office, you have written, and I know that this is not the procedure. Knowing the nature of the bill that we are considering, I'm sure on hindsight, when you see it, you would have thought that maybe it would have been better to have engaged them in a different forum other than just the way you did it, especially when you did not get,
even though this accusation, because what I'm saying
I'm not
is
accusing
that,
you.
Listen,
I'm not
when they were
accusing
coming,
you.
I didn't know why they were coming.
But
when they came, I got to know that.
But he brought in a witness.
Immediately you got to know, you should have asked them that, considering your agenda and what you have, we will have to fix another day for me to get
That's where we are heading
leadership
towards.
Of the committee.
That's where we are
Leadership
heading
of the
towards.
committee.
No, to actually have the whole committee. And the meetings outside the camera, we've held the first one, which was on 2nd of June. That was with the Parliamentarians for Global Action. And eminent men like some professors and others were at this meeting, but they said that they don't want
so
the
it
meeting
is not
to
like
be on
you
camera.
have assured them, or you have concluded already.
We haven't had any meeting. And I said that we are inviting them. We'll invite them. I've discussed with the ranking member. If they are ready to actually meet the committee in camera, we'll do that. After which, and you'll be surprised. The nature of this bill, we were invited by the parliamentarians in the Netherlands. When we put it generally that it was on human rights issues and all those. Members of the committee, when we went, the main agenda was on this bill. The House of Commons in the UK had written to the Speaker that they would want to meet 4 members of this committee on human rights. They mentioned capital death penalty, and then on LGBTQ. And we are supposed to go to the UK.
When?
We are supposed to travel on Sunday and walk into the meeting Monday morning up to Wednesday or Thursday. We finish and then we come back. I'm going with my ranking member and 2 other members of the committee, all on this.
Have they given you a view of what they'll be asking you, the House of Commons?
I am interested to go to the House of Commons because this bill that they have actually passed the pro-LGBTQ bill. But you see, they are colonial masters. And this law, that is Article 104 from our in our criminal code, which talks about the unnatural knowledge, it came from them.
Well, colonial masters are not people who entered invited. They came uninvited. So therefore, it is not everything they do that will be appropriate to us.
No. So all he's just trying to say is that
I agree.
The current law we agree with, we got it from them.
Because
it fitted
our cultural beliefs.
So I get a sense that he's interested in going there.
I am very much interested because I want to find out how they did it. Because they were with us. They gave us this law. But now they have passed the pro-LGBT bill. In South Africa, it was apartheid.
Allowed.
As South Africa is African country, apartheid was at its peak. A black man could not go with a black woman and with a white woman and vice versa. Now they passed this act. How did they get there? So we need to actually pass a bill that will withstand the test of time.
So what is the challenge?
So far as I remain the chairman of the committee,
what is the challenge?
I will not be succumbed by such pressures.
What is the challenges of the bill now?
Okay, let's take a break and we'll come back. It's still TV3's Key Points. I'm Jifa Bampo. Our guest, the Honorable Anyimadu, Chairman of Parliament's Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee, and the Honorable Kofi Adams, MP for Buem. We'll be right back. Thank you very much for staying with us here on the Key Points. So we're in the last bit of it, and just some quick messages. This one from Kofi says, I think some of us will have to storm Parliament and force them to pass the bill. This one says, Jifa, I am not sure if the chairman is truly delaying the bill, but for whatever reason, this needs to be swiftly dealt with. And there's also a question there about maybe maybe you might not be delaying anything. You've told us about the process, but there's also a view that maybe this is coming from the executive, seeing the significant backlash also that the country may have suffered because of this bill coming into the House.
Well, I think that where we are heading towards, we need to be very careful, because people are actually trying to create the perception that the chairman coming from the MPP side is actually delaying the bill. The moment we get to the fact that this is political, we would not see the bill passed into law. Because if it becomes political, everybody will protect the political interests. So there's nothing political about this. So they should not actually bring in the executive. The executive will come in when we have gone through all the stages. We have done the first reading, it's referred to us, we send our report, second reading, we do consideration, then we do third reading. Then we push it to the president to actually append a signature. That is when the executive would come in. The process we are using is like any other process. For instance, we have a private member's amendment bill that is proposed by myself and the ranking member of the committee on attempted suicide as an offense. We want to decriminalize it and make it a health one. We advertised, just like we have advertised this. We received memoranda from the public, doctors. We have eminent professors to be with us. And just last week, we held a meeting with them. And we are about writing our report to the House. The same process we have used. Nothing has changed. This one, it has generated a lot of public interest. And I'll remind you, Jifa, I'm sure that at the last meeting, even before the introduction of this bill, people believed that this was a bill that was going to be passed in a week. People believed that within 3 days, we were going to pass it. People thought that the speaker was going to ask who supports this bill, and then we raise our hands or rise, and then it will be passed. But no, it is not like that. And the members of the committee and every member of parliament knows the procedure.
So how, I know you wouldn't want to give a timeline, but what kind of, projections are we looking at then? Now that I guess it's clear to everyone that this is going to take some time.
It's very difficult to give a timeline. I can't.
Okay, and there is no pressure from the executive at all to delay processes?
No.
No pressure
nothing from the executive.
Diplomatic avenues or external
with the diplomatic
forces?
avenues, we have, for instance, the meeting we attended in Hague. We had one of our own, a friend from Uganda. He's in the Ugandan parliament. They passed a similar bill, and the bill went to the president. The president didn't append his signature. It went back to them, and then later they found it. So he was advising against some of the things that are in the bill, and he analyzed our bill alongside our constitution by way of an advice. So people are saying that this would actually, it is not good for the nation. But like my colleague said, traditionally, where are we heading towards? Where have we come from? Is this something within our practice and whatnot? Sometimes also when you are passing a law, you look at it, is it something that you can implement? How are you going to actually catch 2 men doing their thing in a room or 2 women doing their thing in a room? How do you police these things? We actually have to study all these things and take them into consideration.
So you are still taking the various views,
yes,
perspectives.
Yes.
And
but now we are finished with the public hearing.
Yes.
If anybody
so
says...
are you going to do any more public hearings?
No. Probably so that's why...
So if the LGBTQ people... So you will make a concession for in-camera?
Not if they want to speak to their memorandum in camera, we'll listen to them.
Okay,
but if they don't, then we'll start the clause-by-clause analysis, where we have to now look at the Constitution alongside our Constitution and whatnot. And when we are done, we submit the report to the plenary.
Okay.
And then, well, you were having the
Yeah.
So, Honorable Adams, I hope this
example.
satisfies you and gives you a
give one example.
So
briefly, because we have just 30 seconds to go.
What I want them to do is that to consider this meeting and take all the necessary clause by clause as quickly as possible. So we don't go on break without having them bring their report for the second reading of this bill and then it's possibly its consideration. So now that we are in, he's complaining about cost of. They shouldn't wait for us to go on recess before they have to be called upon to come and do stuff.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Unfortunately, that's all time will allow us here on the key points. Much appreciated to all of you for joining us and for sending your messages. I'm Jifa Bampo. Up next is the kids program, Kids Arena.